Christine, how much does it hurt the WNBA when Caitlin Clark is out?
It is devastating to the WNBA when Caitlin Clark is out.
Now, I know a lot of us were expecting some sort of dip since Caitlin Clark has been out with injury, but I don't think all of us were expecting the entire viewership of the entire WNBA to be down. And this tweet from Christine Brennan really stuck out to me. She said one player gets injured and more than half the TV audience for the entire league disappears. Has any other athlete ever had that kind of impact on a sport? Golf without Tiger definitely dropped precipitously on occasion, but
the WNBA is teetering on the edge of a financial and cultural abyss, and the root cause is its failure to protect its brightest star, Caitlin Clark. When Clark, the Indiana Fever's rookie phenom, is sidelined by injury, the league doesn't just lose a player, it loses its lifeline. Viewership across the entire WNBA, not just Fever games.
And the truth is the truth, and the data is there. And what we saw when Caitlin was out the last time, the 5 games that she missed earlier in the season, the WNBA's viewership dropped more than 50%. Not just the Fever, but the entire league.
Plummets by over 55%, ticket prices collapse, and the league's newfound relevance evaporates. Veteran sports journalist Christine Brennan, whose upcoming book, On Her Game, Caitlin Clark and the Revolution in Women's Sports, promises to dissect the league's missteps, sums it up starkly. One player gets injured, and more than half the TV audience for the entire league disappears. Has any other athlete ever had this kind of impact on a sport? The answer is no. Not even Tiger Woods' absence from golf or Michael Jordan's from basketball caused such a seismic drop. The WNBA's dependence on Clark is undeniable, yet its refusal to shield her from aggressive play and its inability to capitalize on her popularity are driving the league toward a preventable catastrophe.
Quad injury jumped to her groin likely because of compensation, but the thing that you have to be careful of is if, say, you try to rush her back from this injury as well, then you're getting into this territory where a very serious injury can happen. That is what the Indiana Fever, that is what Caitlin need to avoid the best that they possibly can. So if it means that Caitlin is out for 3 weeks, if it means that she is out all the way through All-Star, then so be it.
The data paints a grim picture. When Clark suffered a quad injury on May 24, 2025, national TV viewership for Fever games dropped 53%, from an average of 1.81 million viewers to just 847,000. Now, with Clark out again due to a groin injury, potentially compounded by overcompensation from her earlier injury, the league is seeing a repeat. Nationally televised WNBA games have lost 55% of their audience, and Fever games specifically are averaging fewer than 850,000 viewers. This isn't just a Fever problem, it's a league-wide collapse. Without Clark, the WNBA's viewership has reverted to a paltry 555,000 per game, well below last year's average of 670,000, signaling a return to the pre-Clark era of half-empty arenas and limited cultural relevance. The financial devastation is equally stark.
Clark went down. The ratings have dropped over 55% across the board.
Hey, guess what, guys?
The league is Caitlin Clark.
The league is Caitlin Clark. She is the WNBA, guys.
Sidelined with a left quad strain May 24th, national TV viewership has plunged since then 55%. Before the injury, they Fever, her team, were averaging 1.81 million viewers, almost 2 million. Since her injury, fewer than 850,000.
Ticket prices for Fever games have plummeted by 71%, with some dropping from $860 to $250. The league-wide average ticket price for games Clark missed fell from $1,170 to $80, a decline that underscores her singular ability to drive demand. The highly anticipated Chicago Sky versus Fever rematch, which drew 25 million viewers with Clark on the court, saw ticket prices crash from $210 to $95 without her. Arenas that were upgraded to larger venues to accommodate the Clark effect are now struggling to fill seats. Merchandise sales, once boosted by Clark's jersey becoming one of the league's top sellers, have slowed to a trickle. The WNBA, already projected to lose $50 million in 2025 despite Clark's surge, is hemorrhaging revenue at an alarming rate. Caitlin Clark's impact transcends statistics. At just 22, the former Iowa Hawkeye has redefined the WNBA's visibility. Her collegiate career, marked by record-breaking performances and a flair for long-range shooting, made her a household name before she even entered the pros.
While Caitlin Clark was busy doing
News is alarming for the league, and it's alarming for the league because this is such a crucial year for the WNBA. At the end of this season, the WNBA will go into CBA negotiations. If negotiations go well, then every single player in the WNBA has a much better chance of making so much more in their next contract. And that's one thing when you start thinking about how many people stopped watching when Caitlin Clark got injured. A lot of people stopped watching because they are boycotting the WNBA. They don't want to give viewership to any other teams or any other players, whether they like other players on the team or not, because of how the media and the league itself has handled Caitlin Clark and how they have treated her fans.
In her rookie season, she's delivered on that promise, filling arenas to capacity and shattering TV ratings records. Clark is responsible for 26. Her games draw not just hardcore basketball fans, but families, particularly young girls, who flock to see her in Fever or Iowa jerseys. This demographic shift is critical. Clark has brought a new generation to the WNBA, creating a fan base that could sustain the league for decades if nurtured properly. Yet the WNBA seems oblivious to this opportunity. Clark's style, her logo threes, her unselfish play, and her ability to perform under pressure has made her a cultural phenomenon. She's not just a player, she's a movement. Parents bring their kids to games not just to watch basketball, but to witness a role model who embodies resilience and humility. Clark's post-game interviews, where she consistently praises teammates and deflects personal accolades, reveal a maturity that belies her age. Her presence has elevated the WNBA from a niche league to a mainstream spectacle. Yet the league's actions, or lack thereof, threaten to undo this progress. The WNBA's handling of Clark is nothing short of baffling. Despite her undeniable value, the league has failed to protect her from aggressive, often dangerous play. In the 2024 season, 30 flagrant fouls were called league-wide.
What's really concerning about this is the fact that we are only a month into the regular season, and Caitlin Clark has already been out with 2 injuries. With the first one being her having to miss some time with a left quad strain. Now, of course, this is concerning because if you're already on your second injury, you don't want to be that player that is always hurt. Cough, cough, Embiid, cough, cough, Anthony Davis. So I really do hope that the Fever really sits her out right now for a while, only because you don't want her to have more long-term injuries and be more prone to.
5 targeted Clark, with 80% of those committed by the Chicago Sky. These aren't routine basketball plays, but deliberate attempts to intimidate the league's biggest draw. Clark has been blindsided, hacked, and fouled with impunity, yet the WNBA's response is tepid at best. League officials dismiss these incidents as competitive basketball, while critics pile on, labeling Clark too aggressive when she responds, and too soft when she doesn't. It's a no-win situation that the league has allowed to fester. This isn't just about physicality, it's about fairness and competitive integrity. The NBA would never tolerate months of targeted fouls against LeBron James or Stephen Curry without issuing suspensions and setting clear boundaries. Yet the WNBA seems content to let Clark endure harassment, as if controversy is a viable substitute for strategy. This failure has created a toxic environment where fans, frustrated by the league's inaction,
Man, bruh. Congratulations to the WNBA. Your ratings are going to drop by 55 to 60% once again. I believe the WNBA have successfully broken Caitlin Clark.
are boycotting games. Many refuse to watch any WNBA team, not just the Fever, citing a lack of trust in the league's ability to officiate fairly. This fan backlash is particularly damaging as the WNBA approaches critical CBA negotiations at the end of the 2025 season. Higher viewership and revenue could lead to better contracts for all players, but the current collapse, driven by Clark's absence and the league's mishandling of her treatment, jeopardizes those prospects. The WNBA's current crisis isn't an isolated incident, it's a pattern. The league has repeatedly failed to capitalize on its stars, from Lisa Leslie to Diana Taurasi. Each time a transcendent player emerges, the WNBA struggles to translate their popularity into lasting growth. Clark's case is particularly egregious because the evidence of her impact is so clear. When she plays, arenas sell out, TV ratings soar, and sponsors line up.
As big a deal as Tiger was in men's golf, Keith, he did, and when he was gone, it affected the ratings, but nothing like that. And, Michael Jordan being out, maybe a 5 percentage points or something. Nothing like this. You can make a strong case, and I will make that case, and have that there is no one single athlete more important to his or her sport or tour or whatever the circuit is that they play on.
When she's out, the league reverts to its pre-Clark struggles. Yet, despite this crystal clear data, the WNBA continues to prioritize short-term drama over long-term stability. The league's refusal to learn from history is infuriating. When Clark missed 5 games earlier in the season with her quad injury, viewership tanked. Now, with her groin injury sidelining her again, the same pattern has emerged. Rushing her back risks a more serious injury. Think Anthony Davis or Joel Embiid, whose careers have been marred by recurring ailments. Clark, who hadn't missed a game since her late teens, is now on her 2nd injury in a month. This raises red flags about her long-term durability, especially if the league continues to allow opponents to target her without consequence. The ripple effects of Clark's injuries extend beyond ratings and revenue. Corporate sponsors who poured millions into the WNBA based on Clark's draw are now questioning their investments. The league's projected $50 million loss in 2025 was supposed
That Caitlin Clark is to the WNBA.
I don't even know where to begin, man. I hope Caitlin Clark is okay. I want to know when this injury even happened, bro, because let's be serious here. She has the quad injury. Mind you, Caitlin Clark hadn't missed a game since she was like 19 years old, since she was like 18 in college or something. Now she has a groin injury. We've never seen Caitlin Clark play as bad as she played the last 3 games. Let's just be serious here. She's like 1 for 20-something on threes in the last 3. We've never seen her shoot the ball this way. I'll say that. Has she been hurt and playing through this?
to be offset by Clark-driven growth. But without her, those losses are mounting. Merchandise sales, particularly Clark's jerseys, have slowed, and attendance figures are reverting to pre-Clark levels. This isn't just a financial hit, it's a credibility crisis. Fans are losing trust in the WNBA, not just because of Clark's injuries, but because of the league's refusal to address the underlying issues. The WNBA's identity crisis is evident in its conflicting priorities. On one hand, it wants to be taken seriously as a professional sports league, competing with the NBA and other major organizations. On the other, it leans into manufactured drama, allowing controversies to overshadow the basketball itself. This approach might generate social media buzz, but it alienates the very fans the league needs to grow. Clark's injuries have exposed this.
The thing I admire about Caitlin, she's a warrior. She's tough. You hear me? Bruh, you just don't see players, you don't see female basketball players like her. I'm sorry. I done seen a lot of female basketball players, like I said.
To clean up, I believe the physicality and all this hacking and fouling that goes on, she getting blindsided by Marina Mabry. I think all of this stuff is having a wear and tear and an impact. And all you guys are doing are hurting yourselves, because the numbers are going to drop and drop and drop. And trust me, when it's time for that collective bargaining agreement, they are going to point to this and say, well, how can we give you guys all this money? What happens if she gets hurt?
Flaw. When your biggest star is out and fans stop watching because they don't trust the product, you have a serious problem. The upcoming CBA negotiations add urgency to the situation. A successful agreement could transform players' salaries and working conditions, but the league's current trajectory, marked by declining viewership and fan disillusionment, weakens its bargaining position. Opponents in negotiations will point to the 55% viewership drop as evidence that the WNBA's value hinges on one player. This vulnerability could have been mitigated if the league had used Clark's popularity to build a broader foundation, promoting other stars and investing in fan engagement. Instead, it's squandered the opportunity, leaving players and teams to bear the consequences. The solution isn't complicated, but it requires the WNBA to make tough choices. First, the league must establish
every day because of the way they play the game, because I love the WNBA. I love the way they play the game. But we really watch it because Caitlin Clark and everybody watching. Now listen, if I keep bumping her, knocking her down, might get her a concussion, you might hurt her for real. For 2 weeks, she was done with like a hamstring. She was down. 55% of the viewership was down. She comes back the next game, it's about 3 million viewers. Now let me tell you something. Growing up in the hood, they teach you this. Always protect the money. Y'all keep hurting her and all that. She going for a year or two. Ain't nobody gonna watch it. If nobody watches, how y'all gonna make and generate money?
Establish clear guidelines for player protection and enforce them consistently. Flagrant fouls and dangerous plays should result in swift penalties, signaling that targeting stars like Clark won't be tolerated. Second, the WNBA needs to shift its focus from social media drama to competitive integrity. Highlighting great basketball, not petty controversies, will rebuild fan trust. Finally, the league must recognize that stars like Clark are rare and deserve to be nurtured, not neglected. Her ability to draw new fans, especially young ones, offers a chance to secure the WNBA's future, but only if the league acts decisively. The WNBA's collapse without Clark is a harsh reminder of what the league was before her arrival, a niche product struggling for relevance. Her presence has shown what's possible: packed arenas, record ratings, and a new generation of fans. But without her, the league risks returning to obscurity. The tragedy is that this was preventable. Clark entered the WNBA with humility, praising teammates and handling criticism with grace. She could have been the cornerstone of a new era. Instead, the league's inaction has created a house of cards that collapses the moment she steps off the court. The question now is whether the WNBA will learn from this crisis or continue its destructive pattern. The smart money isn't on the league suddenly finding common sense, but the stakes couldn't be higher. Protect Caitlin Clark and you protect the future of the WNBA. Fail to do so, and the league risks losing everything it's gained.
What I saw walking to the game is what the media don't see. Thousands of kids.
Wearing what, Gil?
Kids. Huh?
What were they
Caitlin
wearing?
Clark jerseys.
Were they Fever jerseys? Were they Iowa jerseys? Were they
wherever she played? It was whatever she played.
And that's what was more impressive to me.
It did that. It wasn't just it was Caitlin in the back.
For her style of play.
But her style of play. But it wasn't adults. Right. It was parents bringing their kids and their friends. Mm-hmm. Them seats was kids filled.
Right.
And that's what they don't understand. They don't grasp that part of it.